Field finds, recent field finds, central, north central, east central Ohio. It's always nice to look at some of the treasures that people find, starting with the crow field. If you'll notice, there's often multiple fluting coming down from the base. That's a nice crow field. To find these large drills for me are it just doesn't happen. But this came off a late Paleo, early Archaic site. And then end scrapers. This isn't just a long, big end scraper, but it's also a beautiful side scraper. Were it smaller, we'd call it a thumb scraper, but this one is just very unusual. An Adina cigar-shaped pipe. You've seen it before. The open end with dirt and the area where they drew the smoke with dirt. I left those in on purpose. And then cones. We find sandstone cones. They're unusual, not rare, but very, very unusual. Hematite cones are, on the other hand, very, very rare and unusual down here. Silver ore cube. This is coming back up toward the Mansfield area. Very, very unusual. And then what a treat to find a whole hematite artifact, a little tiny celt. These are just some wonderful field find treasures just to get us all hungry and just to encourage us. This stuff is still out there. Hi, everybody. We thought we'd take you for a walk with us this morning. We're just the tail end of winter, beginnings of spring. You know, how do you know when you have a good field? What's involved in selecting a field? This is one that I've walked since the year 2000, and the swoop that you just saw a minute ago began along a tree line where a sizable stream river is, and no feeder streams or springs coming out of this area, but it's just cradled where the river makes a bend. And for whatever reason, we have a multi-component, multi-village site. And I wish I could say that, oh, walk one little corner and you're done. No, there are sites, there are multicultural spots everywhere in this field. Now it's a little bit tough because the greenery is starting to come back up, and it's kind of rough. This guy doesn't plow, and he actually ran a chisel in here maybe 2 weeks ago, which is unusual for him. So we're betting that with that, some material might have come up. So what we're going to do is we're going to get out in the field, we're going to do some walking, maybe shoot some of the flint so you can see what we're looking at, and do a quick look when we're done. So stay with us. Okay, well, if you look out in front of us, there's a little swale, a little hill that's obvious. We're standing on a road, so you're just gonna have to bear with us as cars go by. But there's one little ripple that's very, very notable. This has been a pretty consistent Paleo, early Archaic site on this giant multicultural area. We're gonna go down, we're gonna start on this, walk it out, head to the back. Probably 2 or 3 hours left of this field, so hang in there, follow me, and here we go. This is pretty much the way the material is going to pop up in this field. It's going to be sparse, but it's going to be everywhere. And you just got to go slow. You got to dig them all out. So we have maybe a flake knife right there. But if we swing around over here by my trowel, I see another piece of flint hiding down in here. So we're going to take our time. And in this field, literally everything has to be popped. Everything needs to come out and be looked at. So this is what you're going to see, a bunch of on, off with us as we walk this field. And then when we're all done, we'll let you see what we got. Okay? See you in a minute. So you can see the difficulty that we're having because we're late spring now and this undercover stuff is beginning to pop up. We're going to try to be vigilant with our back and forth and be real faithful with that. This is just one walk, one swoop. Okay, this is just down, not down back, not down back, down back. It's just down. So this is what we got. we're going to continue going back and forth, and we'll show you what we get in a few more minutes. It's time for an old man to put the bucket where the bucket needs to be. Down. Well, we finished this little knob, and we'll be heading to the corner behind us where some of the bigger blades and the early archaic material tends to pop up. But what we wanted to do is just to casually show you what this little knob has yielded. So first of all, let's start with the 2 bags of material. They're full. And this, my videographer got one and I got one. I'm wondering if you're finding Easter's right around the corner. If you're finding some of these eggs out here. Luckily for me, just down the road is a golf course, and they give me 25 bucks for a 5-gallon bucket. Yes, I do find that many golf balls out in the fields when I walk. So both of us got an Easter egg, a lot of flint, a lot of flake knives, a lot of Uniface tools in here like crazy. I would say the majority of them are broke. And that's probably why they're here. They threw them down. But just a couple pieces I'll point out to you. Nothing's been washed yet. This thing was buried. Right there is what I saw. That is all that I saw. But when you're on a site, you gotta dig. You gotta dig. So popped him out, and this whole edge has been worked. This is a huge scraper. Some of our blades, our Uniface blades, look like this. This has been modified. It's been worked on both sides. We have a type of large graver right there. And then some of our blades look like this. They can be small, less than an inch, Uniface. Again, remember I said start at the cone of percussion, proximal distal ends to see what you got. A little bit bigger, little bit bigger. And then on this site, some of the paleo material has been looking like this, and the sides have been reduced with the flake scars, a lot of them going straight all the way across the faces like that, which is pretty characteristic of paleo in our area. Across the years, like I said, I've been here since 2000. A lot of these have been turning up all over the site. So wrapping it up here, we're going to move to the back after we catch a breath, get a swig of water. We'll see you in a minute. Welcome, and I'm glad you're back. This is Field Archaeology 101, and we have just finished walking a field, and the wind, literally, we got swept, we got carried away by the wind, and as a result, we ended up in a lab, and we'll look at that in a minute. So let's just take an overview of where we were. I want to try to put some feet under this. If we were up in a helicopter looking down at our field, this is the field and the road that we pulled up on, and we parked and we walked across. And this is what I was talking about. We had a little rise area right here. And then I said that we want to eventually get to the back area of the field right here. This is about a 25-acre field. This is the first level floodplain of the river. This is a very large river. First level floodplain, which inundates kind of like this. And there's a slight, very slight rise all over the field, these little slight rises. I want to call this to your remembrance that what we see is not necessarily what was there 40, 50 years ago. There's been a lot of erosion over time. So these rises will get lower and lower. Example, in Ohio would be up by Lake Erie. The fields who in the 1950s and 60s had rolling hills are now bone flat, just years of erosion. So this has been just eroded forever. This field actually historically is documented with people at the turn of the century in this county out there walking, and they called them Indian arrows when they were looking for arrowheads. But in the right around 1900, they started walking this field. So we're looking at a field that's been heavily cruised for years. And so I want to tell you is just don't get discouraged. You may have a field that you see people out there walking, and you get permission and you go, and don't get discouraged. So here's the layout. This entire area is a floodplain. First level coming up, right up in here is the second level floodplain. And then we have a water source, not small, not big at all, a small little creek coming in to a little bit of a bigger creek. And then I put X's on the ridges right here because these are where the flint pits, the ridges are. So in essence, they were able to mine their flint and bring it down to this semi first, second stage floodplain area. This actually continues on the other side of the road into probably 125-acre area over here. And then there's a little bit more down in here. Heavily walked for years. And so this is where we were. And we started here, we walked this. This took us about an hour. And then from here, we moved to the back. And I couldn't even wear my ball cap anymore. It was blown off. And we just did the best we could. And we literally got blown out of the field. So from here, we ended. We didn't get all the video that we wanted back here. So we're coming back to our lab where we're processing things. And I'll try to walk you through the success. It's always a success when you get out into a field and find some stuff. But I want you to see some of the stuff here. This has not been washed yet. This is the 3 bags that my videographer picked up. 2 off the hill and 1 in the very back. Down here, mine has been washed already. Just some of the debitage. Now, these have not been sorted yet, so there are many, many uniface blades, broken blades, corners, tips, midsections of blades, tips, corners of points. This has not been gone through yet. These may be what I call wannabes. They want to be something, but they may not be. So this is just down the road stuff that I've got to sort through. These were wannabes. I picked them up. Usually there's a concavity on either side. This turns out to be a plow hit. This turned out to be a plow hit right here. Doesn't mean that it wasn't part of a cache. I can't answer that. And this piece of slate was picked up because it's slate. And secondly, there is almost some geometrics here, kind of a large rectangle. Looked them over, just a tiny bit here and there, polish and grind. So the very earliest beginning stages of a wannabe. So let's come back. As I washed this material, if I saw something, I pulled it out, and that's what we're going to look at right now, just to get a real quick flash of what's coming from all this. So the uniface blades in this field, there are hundreds and hundreds of them coming out of this field. Why? Simply because when people first started looking for Indian artifacts, they were after notched points. And for years, that's what people looked for in this field. And then probably in the late 80s, 90s, people started looking beyond notched points. So we have blades, and then we have end scrapers right here. These are whole, complete end scrapers. This is a combination of end scraper, a little bit of a side scraper as well. Coming down to this area, again, as I washed, these things just became apparent. This is actually not only an expended core, but this is a broken expended core. Our platform is right here. You can see where they knocked multiple hits to get their blades off. Broken here, but we see our blade scars right here. Expended core. You remember what we called these? Overshots. When we find an overshot, we have our cone of percussion up here, distal end. We look at the 2 corner areas, our 2 lateral corners. Usually our tools are right there. And this one also had some tooling going on its distal end right here. These, interestingly enough, are little tiny preforms. Preforms can be very big, they can be very small. But all of these were headed to this. This is a triangular point, and this particular field has many, many, many triangles in. The first rise right by the river is where the big quantities come from. Many years ago, there was a small little Hopewell area excavated by a university archaeologist. So here we have some preforms getting closer and closer to final stage preform. Then the rest of the material is just basically broken stuff, This is a giant scraper right here. Some preforms, uh, tip of probably a final stage preform. Let's swing this way for a minute. Go to your left, and I'm going to walk you through this. And what this is, I've been in this field for several years, and we're going to look over my shoulder and go backwards. And a lot of this stuff wasn't framed, a little bit of it was framed, but this will give you a good diversity of what's coming out of here. This is a concretion that was cut, shaped, and polished. No clue what it was, but this has been shaped and cut and put into this pattern. There is Hopewell in that field, Flint Ridge. Triangulars. These triangle points can be, seems to me there's at least 3 different groups of people separated by a little bit of time that made these things. Madison's, there's the Lavanas, and there are other triangles coming out of the field. Remnant of an Ashtabula, lots of big biface knives, and again, just broken blades, a wide range of blades and pieces and parts. Coming over this direction, this is typically what's going on in this field. For a lot of you people, this just looks like a lot of debitage. But if you take the time and examine each one of these, you're going to find the blades, the end scrapers that these were. Same thing down here, same thing down here. These are all pretty much uniface tools, bladelet areas, mostly blades, some flake knives. Coming down a little bit lower, more blades. And it's tough because sometimes these are broken half or broken in thirds, and you got to be able to recognize them. A little bit bigger, end scrapers of sorts, and the very bottom row, larger flake tools coming out of that field. Let's move up here. Again, these are over the last few years, fun. This is a hematite, well polished piece of hematite. We've got some mussel shells in the field, way too far out of the chances of even being part of the floodplain. Probably a raccoon or prehistoric people carried it up by their fire pits and they were working on it. The one piece of pottery that came out of the field on this particular walk. Remember what I said, if you're finding a lot of triangles, you ought to be able to find some pottery. And it may only be one piece, but they're there. Lots of uniface tools, pieces and parts of broken triangles, pieces and parts of broken triangles, broken triangle, broken triangle, gravers. I could just call this a scalloped edge with gravers all along the side of it. Very neat. Coming up on top, we have another, just another day's walk and a piece of pottery. I don't find a whole lot in this field, but it's there. This is an interesting Ashtabula point. And I thought, oh, darn, it's broken. Well, it is broken, but then they reworked it and they made a little scraper on the tip end of this, the distal end of this piece. A lot of uniface material here, little fragments of triangles. But again, the blades, the end scrapers, swinging around over here. The triangles take on many different forms. Some are very intimately, finely worked, and some are really crudely worked. A Flint Ridge thumb scraper here, a little bit broken, prehistoric break over here. And then we have a wide range of end scrapers. Look at the pretty Coshocton flint. I love it. Here's a piece of Coshocton that got near the fire and it oxidized and it's beautiful, and an end scraper. Look at the flake knives up here. Really neat. And here's actually a triangle, a large triangle. Kind of crude, but nonetheless, large triangle. And we'll end up over here with this frame. This was last year. I guess I have a couple. I'll share both of them with you. Sometimes we get these larger, they look like they might be a final stage preform, but in reality, they're actually knives that have been worked down to this situation. And you get various pieces of knives. Again, I had mentioned that this is a very tiny triangle, pieces of triangles in this field. And you get another look at a uniface blade, very neat. Some of these blades are long and big, some are small. Here's an archaic side notch clear up here on top. This is the base of a paleo lance of some sort, broken prehistoric break in the middle. Look at this little scraper, beautiful retouch all the way around it like that. And lastly, and while we're looking at this frame, I want to mention that we probably have close to 20, 25 frames that have been put together from this field over the years, and several boxes of material that have come out of it. So when we look at it again, we see once again another Ashtabula point. I like the Ashtabula culture because you know how oftentimes we find steatite. On my ancient dig site, I find steatite where I find these, and where I find these, I find steatite. They're side by side. Various stages of knives. This is a broken, gorgeous broken final stage preform. Two beautiful blades, very common in this field. And then we get some late archaic material. Here's another preform, kind of a triangular preform. And then again, just broken tools, knives, preform, a big, beautiful knife that's been used here, and just some more broken tools and some slate fragments. I save the slate fragments because, again, when I look at my frames, these are for me. They're not, I love you guys, but they're not for you. They're for me. They're reminders of what's in there. Every frame has a date with it. So I know that 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I was finding this, not finding these anymore. But overall, I can see the progression of my field and what I'm finding. And it takes all of this to begin to tell the story. And what's interesting, by now, I'm hoping this question popped up in your head as you were looking at everything that we found. Where are the notched points? Where are the notched points? We looked at an archaic side notch over there. Well, they're in somebody's pocket 20, 40, 70, 100 years ago. But that should not discourage you because there's always more coming up. There's the freezing and thawing process. There's just the massive erosion that goes on over the years, and it'll all keep you hunting. So, oh my goodness gracious. Thank you for joining me today with Archaeology 101. I hope you had fun. I would say this is really a post-winter, pre-spring walk. This is that kind of interim period before the farmers put the plows to the ground. For me, this is one of the most exciting times to get out, but it's a different kind of excitement. This is the material that's just washed off, that's been laying out there in the crops. And then soon, hopefully, the farmers will do what they do, put their weird tools in the ground, and maybe they'll bring some stuff up for you. So welcome. And again, I thank you for joining us today, and we'll be back with you pretty soon. So later, amigo.